Okay, here's our instant reaction to session 3 with Dr. Preston Sprinkle on sexuality and gender. What'd you think, man?
Yeah, two things that I tried to kind of get at with the questions, and I think he answered so well. As first, how he humanizes this, and he never detaches this issue from the people. I really appreciate how he talked about getting into the topic, even how it started as a theological exploration, and then he wanted to meet people. And as he met people, that really impacted how he processed the issue and how he talks about it and how he thinks through this, even in his theology. And then secondly, his just clarification of terms. I think there is so much confusion in our culture today. And I was confused before I really found his resources, in which I sounded kind of like a fanboy, just like fawning over him. But like his resources are so good. Like I honestly can't rate them any higher. They're so good. So how he clarifies these terms for us so that we can speak clearly. So when we get into these conversations, we can even say, like, what do you mean by gender identity? Or what do you mean by gender role? What do you mean by sex? These things that like we have to be on the same wavelength in terms of our definitions before we can even have a conversation, right?
Right, and I think it's sometimes the conversation's intimidating for people. They actively avoid it, right? And it's impossible to get on the same page about something when you're actively avoiding the topic. So I think from that standpoint, this was really good. I do like his approach in terms of the ideas of, hey, I hold this traditional view of these things, but we have to be able to meet people where they're at, and that is, I don't think there's one blanket answer for how that happens in the practical, of course, but I do think I want to examine in myself, like, are there hills that I'm willing to die on that I shouldn't be around this stuff? Like, do I need to pick a fight over this thing? Do I need to insist on using this pronoun for that person? Things like that. Is that something that Jesus would be doing or asking of us as Christ followers? Or is that something that I'm doing out of a desire to be right, or of fear of losing my high ground, or I don't know, man. But so there's a lot there, but that part of it was challenging for me. I want to keep looking at my own motives in terms of this conversation, and make sure that I'm willing to be as inoffensive as I can possibly be about the things that aren't essential for me to stand up for, and disconnecting those things can be hard sometimes, but that's really good work for me to do and to sift through, and that's true for all of us.
Yeah, and I think this is such a cultural hot button topic right now that I think there's a lot of kind of fear or concern around not speaking appropriately about this. There's a lot of social pressure around it, and then not only that, but then the individual relationship. So I think this is one that, as he mentioned, it's such a predominant major cultural conversation right now that we as a church have to be engaging with it. And even if we personally don't know somebody who is struggling with gender identity, for example, like, this is something that we have to be aware of, because we likely will, as this continues to be a very common cultural conversation. So I think now's the time to really think through this and to process through it. And I thought his talk was super helpful.
Definitely. Certainly there's no point in not talking about it. I think that's clear, with our kids, with our church. And we will keep talking about it. We want to do that with you guys as a church. We'll probably do a longer form version of unpacking all these things, the two of us as well. But we just wanted to give you our thoughts coming right off the call. And we're very excited for you guys to work through these things. And we want to hear from you as well. So thank you guys so much for listening.